Richard here with the Wheel and Wrench YouTube channel, and in this video we'll be installing some much needed extra lights on this Polaris Sportsman 800 6x6. I'll be showing you how to plan out your wiring properly, how to calculate your wire gauge, how to calculate your fuse size, how to wire up a relay and a switch to the original wiring harness on the ATV. Now this video will be applicable to just about any 12 or 24 volt vehicle. It could be a car, an ATV, a boat, an excavator, a wheel loader, a tractor, and just about any vehicle. The only thing you'll have to keep in mind is whether or not your vehicle has a CAN bus system and you're going to hook into the original wiring harness, then you might need some extra parts that is not covered in this video. But that's the intro, let's get started. Now the first thing you'll want to do, of course, is figure out what type of lights you want and how many. Right here I've got 6 of these and 2 of these, and then you'll want to figure out where you're going to mount them. I'm going to mount one here and one on the opposite side, of course, and then I'm going to do one on each side here, something like that, and then the last 2 back here. And then these 2 are going to be for the Massey Ferguson skidder tractor. So the ATV is getting 6 of these. And they are 4 LEDs, as you can see, at 6 watts each. It'll be interesting to see how well they light up, but 24 watts in this size is pretty impressive. And then the next thing you'll want to do is figure out how long your wire is going to be. For me, the longest ones are going to be from these lights up here, because those wires will run all the way down through here, and then over to the back side here, and then they're going to go back again, and all the way up to my fuses and everything down below here. I've measured this out and it's going to be about 5 meters. And then we'll go ahead and write this down. We have 5 meters of wire and we have 24 times 4. That's going to be 96 divided by 12 because we have 12 volts. We can go ahead and do this. 96 watts divided by 12 volts. That is 8, so 96 watts divided by 12 volts, that's 8 amps. And then with that information we can go ahead and use this chart. I'll leave a link to this in the video description. But we're going to look for 5 meters and it's going to be right in between these 2. And we have 8 amps, so the closest here is going to be 10. And that is going to be just about 12 gauge wire. Now unfortunately though, I bought the wrong wires for this. I was supposed to get 12 gauge, but I went ahead and got, well, this is 2.5 mil squared, which is just about 14 gauge. And as you can see, that's not going to be enough for one run of wires to 4 lights. It will, however, be enough if we make 2 runs. But I have plenty of wire here, so that's what we're going to do. 1 wire for 2 lights. Now this would be an issue if we had 1 light consuming too much power. In that case, you would need the correct gauge. Alright, so we're going to mount the first light right here. I may have messed up a little bit here. There's a plastic thing behind here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to drill a new hole here. That's good. Now we can install this. I'm having some issues getting access to the bolt from behind here with my fingers, so I've just got the nut taped to my wrench here and I can just stick this in from behind. Then we can mount our light. There we go. Alright guys, I think that's pretty good. Got both of those mounted, pointing out to the sides. Now I'm going to do the back ones. Alright, so for the ones in the back here, I'm going to put them like something like that, I think. Ideally, I would like to keep them protected by this. I think that would be kind of nice, have them like right here. The only issue then is that I have very little adjustability out to the sides. The main thing I want to accomplish is having light spread in this direction, sort of at an angle out to the sides, because I'm going to buy another light for high beams and that's going to be mounted right here. So I don't really need these lights to be pointing straight forwards. And as you saw, I put these at an angle out to the sides a little bit. So then I was thinking, since we have those pointing slightly to an angle in the front there, we'll go ahead and put these at even more of an angle. And we're not going to be able to accomplish that if we put them in the back here. I would have to angle them sort of at a cross section then. And I think that would be kind of weird. And then of course this netting here would reduce the efficiency of the light. And so even though this is more exposed, I think I'm going to put them here anyway. Now if I do break one, it's not the end of the world because they're not terribly expensive. And then I'm going to have two in the back as well. And they're going to be mounted something like that. And then they're also going to be protected by this, which is nice. So let's go ahead and start mounting these now. So I'm just going to do the first one by eye, and then we'll measure here and transfer it to the other side. And then I'm going to use this tool right here just to clean up the edges a little bit. And then I'll use my brand new Baco tape measure. And what I really liked about this one is that it has numbers on both sides. And the tape measure itself is stainless steel, and it has magnets on the tip. And that seems to be about 6.8. So we'll do that on the other side as well. Whoops. Let's go ahead and see what size this is. Probably 13. Yep. And the other one is an Allen wrench. Alright. Alright, small issue. This bolt right here isn't long enough. So I went ahead and drilled a bigger hole in the back so that the nut can pass through. And then the hole is just about big enough to fit this socket here. There we go. And then we can put on the light. They're going to be angled something like that, I think. You can always adjust this later as well. And then I'll just poke this through right here. And a washer on the back side. There's something weird about this bracket for this specific light. There's some production error here, but I think we'll make it work. There we go, I think. This corrugated pipe will not take 4 14 gauge wires. I've tried to get these 4 wires here through this pipe, but it's too small, there's no chance it's happening. So I'm left with 2 options. Well, I'm left with 3 options. I could either just run these wires without protection. These do have very thick insulation, so it is possible. But this red here will fade and it looks kind of jank, and also the more protection the better. I could use this corrugated pipe that I had laying around, but it's grey, so it would look kind of weird. At least on the outside, it would look kind of weird. The other option is to run 2 lengths of these as well. So I would have 2 wires in each of these and then just run 2 of them. And then the next option is just to run 1 set of these for all 4 lights. It would work. I mean, it's right on the edge, but I think it would work. I did remeasure the length of wire that I need, and it's 3.2 meters, which means I could run just 1 set of 14 gauge. But yeah, those are kind of my options right now, other than going to buy new wire or new corrugated pipes, which I'm not going to do. We just got to work with what we got. So now I got to make a decision about which option I'm going to take. All right, so yeah, I made up my mind. We're going to do 2 runs of these, because our wiring will be a little bit more versatile if we do 1 run for each side, basically just for future upgradability. If I want to change out the lights or add a couple more, then it's not going to be an issue with the wires, right? So that's what I'm going to do. 1 run for each side. So we're going to use this corrugated pipe, of course, on both sides. And I'll drill a hole right here. And there is already a hole underneath. And we'll drill the hole just a tiny bit smaller than this, so that it seats nicely inside of there. And we'll zip tie it to this all the way up here and up to the light. So let's measure this, and it is just about 13. So then we're going to use a 12.5mm drill bit, and that's going to be just about perfect. So let's go ahead and do that. Then we'll try to shove this in here. Hopefully it'll work. Actually, you know what? We'll fish the wire through first. I think that's going to be a lot easier. Not entirely sure if this will work, but... Alright, change the plans here a little bit. That hole I was talking about right there, that I was going to feed my wires through, lines up perfectly with that bolt right there. Anyway, I found a new channel right down here where the wires for the taillights are fed through. So I've got my fish tape through the hole that we drilled and through this hollow channel here in the side wall of the bed and out through here. So now I can pull the wires through. And we'll just attach these through here. Alright, with the wires fed through here, we can snip off the frayed conductors here. And then we can feed it through this corrugated pipe. And then we'll shove this pipe into the hole that we drilled. That worked out nicely. And then we'll tuck it in here and zip tie it. Alright, that's nice and tidy. Get yourself a pair of these flush cut pliers. I'll leave a link in the description. They're dirt cheap and they're very handy for snipping zip ties without leaving a tiny tab that you'll cut your fingers on. Alright, that's pretty good. Now we need to connect both of those lights. So we need one connector on this wire here and we need to do a Y split into these two. Alright, so I've already made one of these connectors. We need to make another one. And then we'll junction two of them into one of these. And don't twist the conductors, they should just be straight. The easiest way that I've found is to put the ferrules into the tool first. And then I'll feed my wire in. Just like that. And then we'll make the other one. And then we'll put the wires into the socket here. And then we'll shove this green little tab here into the plug, like so. And then just tug on these wires to make sure that they're secure. So now we have two of these and we need to splice them together. So we'll go ahead and put them end to end like this. And I want them to be not too long, but maybe something like that, I think is fine. So now they're equal length. Then we'll take another piece of wire here and we'll just pull these apart. And then we'll grab some heat shrink tubing. Should have put this on before I stripped the wires. I don't know why I didn't do that, but... Let's try that again. Alright, I'm having no luck with this. Alright, we got it in the end here. I used the purple one instead. So now we're going to do the negative lead. And again, I forgot to put this on before I stripped the wires, but... I think that was pretty good. Alright, both of those are connected. One thing that's a risk with these solder tubes here is that you can have strands poking through the insulation. And if you have them so close to each other like this, then they could short out. So what I like to do is either put some electrical tape around them or some heat shrink tubing, just for extra safety. There we go. Now we'll let this cool down and we can put the connector on the other end. Alright, now that this has cooled down, we can go ahead and add another piece of heat shrink tubing here. This step isn't strictly necessary, but it adds a little bit more protection and it looks nice. And we're gonna shove this all the way up as far as it'll go. And then we can go ahead and put a connection on this end as well. And then we'll grab a couple of these. As you can see, I've got the grommet here crimped into the back side of the ferrule. The point is to fasten this grommet so that it doesn't fall out. Got both of them crimped on here, so now we can go ahead and put on the connector. This way, I think. There we go, those are clicked in place. Give it the old tug test here just to make sure they're secure. And then this is the male end, which will go inside of the female end, like so. So now we're going to shrink on this last heat shrink tubing here and we'll put it over the connector. And that's it. Once this has cooled down, it's done. Alright, now we can go ahead and wire up this end. We have to put a connector onto this wire. And then we can use the Y-split to connect these together. We'll start off by removing some of this excess here. And then we'll put some heat shrink tubing on here. And then we can cut this down about there. And then we can put the connector on. Let's just make sure that we get them in the right spot. And one is going to be for this one. Red goes in number 1. There we go. And tug on the wires a little bit. So then we can put this heat shrink down and we'll crimp this. Alright guys, so let's connect the Y-split and finish off this side. So this goes into here. Then we'll connect the lights and the other one as well. So both of these lights are connected into this end of the Y-split here. And then the Y-split goes into this connector here and into that corrugated pipe or hose or whatever. And down through here and into the bed. Now the last thing to do here, of course, is to tidy this up a little bit. And the easiest way when you have a lot of heat shrinks is to just lightly heat them up again so that they become a bit more pliable. I guess we could do that. Something like that I think is fine. So we'll zip tie it like that. And then we'll zip tie this right there. Alright guys, I think that's pretty good. Now I just got to do the same thing for the other side. Alright, so I got the other side wired up here. And we got the corrugated pipe on this side as well. And of course I made another Y connector for this side. I might go ahead and put a shroud over here. Some plastic or maybe a piece of steel just to cover up these connections and all the wires and stuff. Added protection and it would look a little bit nicer. So now we're going to continue feeding these up to the fuse box and we're going to ground both of these to the frame right here. And then I'll just continue with the positive leads up to the fuse box. And that way we don't have to run as many wires. The only thing you'll want to make sure of if you're going to do this is that the frame has proper ground. And just to make double sure, I've added another ground wire from the battery to the frame right there. And then we'll be adding the ground for the lights right there. And then we'll continue with the positive leads up to the fuse box area here. So let's keep going. Alright, I've laid this down with some corrugated pipe. Now I'm going to do this side. And so we'll just measure this kind of loosely, sort of all the way up to there and all the way up here, and then I'll snip the wire like here just to give some wiggle room. You always want more wire than you need, so I'm going to do that, and then we'll put some corrugated pipe on this side and lay this down up here, ground it, and then continue on with the positives. And then we'll split these wires. We'll snip this right here. And now we have some ground wire left over that we can use for other projects. Then we'll feed the wire through and the ground as well here. And then we'll just stick it a couple of inches in here, something like that. Shove this a little bit in here just to allow for some movement of the bed. I'll zip tie these on the inside here. And then we'll remove some of the excess corrugated pipe from this. Alright, so now we'll ground these off. Yeah, I think right there is going to be nice. We'll strip these and we'll put on a ring terminal. Might have stripped a little bit much here. Alright, that should be a nice and strong connection. I don't know if I like the wires going over this. I think I'd much rather they go underneath. So let's take that off and route them underneath instead. Alright, I think that's pretty good. I did forget to put the connector right here that I was talking about earlier. So I'll probably just do that whenever I go to take this bed off in the future, or we could do it in a future video. I'm not sure, but I'm not going to do it now. So let's just continue on with the wiring here. So what we'll do now is add some corrugated pipe all the way up to the fuse box. So we'll just measure out an approximate length here. We'll zip tie this to here. And then we'll go ahead and add some tape just to keep the wires from falling back into the pipe. And then we can start feeding it through here and up to the fuse box. I'll try to feed it through here. Alright, we got our wires here. I also went ahead and made some wires for the front lights. And here's the relay that we're going to be mounting in here. Now we just need some power to this relay. Luckily I found some 10 gauge wire that we can use. This is mostly what you'll see your wiring harnesses taped up with from the factory. So I taped it up with that for some added protection. As always, there's links to everything that I use in the video description. Added an eyelid terminal right here and some heat shrink on each end just to keep the tape from unraveling. So now we're going to feed this wire through here, just like we did with the other wires. Now we gotta wire this to ground, and then this goes to power, this goes to our lights, this goes to the switch, and the yellow one we're not going to be using because this is a 4-pin relay and this is a 5-pin socket. We'll heat shrink that. Alright, so now we're going to open up the pod here and we're going to install the switch. I think we're going to put it right there. And we'll need to find a switch that we can use. I think I'm going to go with one of those. And we'll need a cap for it. We'll do a blue one. Then I'll put an O-ring on here just for some extra weather sealing. Put the cap on. And in order to power the relay, we're going to find a power source that's only active whenever the lights are on. And that'll do two things. First of all, it'll make it so that whenever we switch off the ignition, the lights will also go out. And secondly, we'll have another switch to turn off the lights. So whenever there's no lights on the ATV, the work lights are also off. So we're going to go ahead and find a wire here that only has power whenever the lights are on. Alright, I found something in this connector right here. So if we turn on the lights, we have 9 volts right now because the ATV isn't running. So we can hook into this. It's going to be the blue one right there, which is yellow on this side. So we'll snip that, something like right about here, I think. I need some heat management in here, melting everything around it. Then we'll go ahead and put some of that heat resistant tape around all of this. Alright, so now we can go ahead and connect this back up. I'll probably go ahead and change this connector eventually because one of the leads here has broken off and they've bypassed it. Some of the other ones here are not, like the connection's not great here, so now we'll crimp on a spade connector here and connect it to the switch. Now we'll connect this to the switch here, like so. And then the other end of the switch goes to the relay. And the relay is going to be mounted right here. Something like that. And this green wire on the relay goes to the other end of the switch. So we'll need to extend this a little bit. And since I don't have colored wire, we're just going to have to use some of this either red or black. Give it a tug to make sure that it's secure. Some heat shrink. We can just remove the yellow one. There we go. The blue one goes to the lights and the red one goes to the battery. Alright, so that's it for this and the relay. Let's go mount it. And I'm just going to use one of these self-tapping screws straight into the plastic there. Now we need to ground this. That should be a nice solid ground down there. We're just going to use some Vago connectors here. That'll be fine, but I might change it in the future. Now we're going to connect this to the other side of the switch. Like there. We'll strip the wires for the front lights. And then we'll put these in Vago connectors as well. Vago, I don't know. There's one. And these will do up to 10 gauge. And then the blue one. Let's see if we can hear the relay engage now. Yep. So that's definitely working. And now for the very last step in all of this wiring. Hooking up to the battery. And I'd like to do something about this as well. I don't like having so many wires hooked straight up to the battery, but that's a future video. Alright, moment of truth here. And now if we flick this. And now let's see if they turn off if we switch off the lights here. Alright, that works. And what if we turn off the ignition? Now I'm going to go ahead and reassemble all these panels and we can go ahead and test our new lights when nighttime arrives. Alright, well it's a few hours later now and as you can see it's pretty dark out. Unfortunately though it is snowing now so I can't use my good camera. So we're going to have to use the GoPro. This is before. And let's flick the switch. So that's going to be real nice for whenever I'm working with this ATV during night time. And just to make sure that our wiring is still correct, we can turn off the switch right here, kills the lights, but the ignition is still on. And then we can turn off the ignition, that also kills the lights. And then we have our own switch right here. Alright, so what a difference that made. It's going to be real nice to have some proper lighting around the ATV whenever I'm working during night time. Now if you liked this video, please go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps me out, probably more than you think. And consider subscribing if you'd like to see more videos like this. And if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave it below. I always enjoy reading those. And if you'd like to support me even further than that, then you can buy me a cup of coffee by going to this link right here. I'll leave it in the description as well, of course. If you'd like to see more videos about this ATV, you can click right here. And as always, I hope you have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.